Time to go. All right. I'd like to call to order this Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for Monday, May 5th, 2025. Everyone is present. If I can have everyone stand for the opening prayer by Alderman McKee, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we love you, and we're just so gracious and towards you, and just honored to be here, Lord. And Lord, just pray for our citizens and our staff as always, Lord. We're grateful for the great community you have, and Lord, we just don't even know how blessed we are. Lord, I just pray for safety and security around our citizens and our staff as well. Lord, I pray for each one of these gentlemen up here as we make decisions tonight that affect everyone. And Lord, just give us the wisdom we need to make those decisions. Lord, we lift up your name and just praise your holy name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We're up, church. Will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
They moved the flag on us.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
now pledge to the Arlington flag, right?
I turned around and said something looks different.
You were looking at me and I'm looking past you.
So, man, just keeps going, right? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 7, 2025 meeting? Second. Motion by Mr. Harmon, second by Mr. Barker. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, any objection? That item passes. Next up, grievances and comments from citizens. This is where we give you a chance to come up and speak for up to 3 minutes on any particular topic, whether it's on the agenda tonight or not. Please note that it's not necessarily a question and answer session. It's a way for you to address the board. If we cover what you're saying tonight in the meeting, we will try to cover it at a later time. But if not, staff will have your number and can get back with you. So I do have one card from Eric Epsey. Or is it Espy? I'm sorry.
It's Espy.
Okay.
It's like the award, but it's spelled just a
There
little
you
bit
go.
different.
Well, you get the award. You're the first up.
So I want to thank you all for
Will you state your name and address for the record, please?
Eric Espy. I'm at 12027 Campbell Street. And I want to thank you all for the service you give to the community. Many of you all have been on this board for a long time, doing a lot of great things that a lot of people in this community take for granted. One thing that you've done over the years that is in close vicinity to my house and what indirectly brings me to you tonight is you've developed the downtown square area. It is very aesthetically pleasing. It is pedestrian friendly, and it has been expanded to connect to a wonderful park and a wonderful soccer complex. Turning to the problem. We got a problem with traffic on Walker Street, gentlemen. Walker Street specifically between Chester and passing Greenlee all the way down to Polk. Speed limit's 20 miles an hour. I walk there every day for exercise at least once, either on my own or with my 3 kids. Nobody goes 20 miles an hour, and quite frankly, most everybody is 35 or higher. Now, that's using my eyeballs and my good sense and my 20-some-odd years of driving. I don't sit out there and clock people, but there's too many cars, they go too fast, and there's too many people coming in and out of the shops and in and out of that area that you have developed. You need a stop sign, in my opinion, at Greenlee and Walker to turn that intersection into a 4-way stop. And frankly, in addition to that, I think you need speed humps or speed bumps on Walker in between Greenlee and Chester. The traffic needs, I mean, we're glad to have it come through there, obviously, but it needs to come through there slower. I'm concerned about it because I've seen an uptick in the past month or so. I know I get 3 minutes. I don't plan on taking them all. But we're in a time of year now, we're going to have kids out of school who are out and about more frequently during the day at extended hours, and we're going to have more inexperienced drivers who are not in school during the day at regular hours. And I think there's a problem here that you have a chance to address. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Espy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did we have any other cards that were delivered? Okay. On to communications. Sheriff's Department report is on file, and for those of y'all who weren't here, we did just have a Sheriff's Department Officer of the Year that Chief Harville and the Health and Safety Committee put on, so we appreciate them honoring the Sheriff's Department, so y'all just missed a big influx of them. But next, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Harville for the safety poster presentation.
Good evening. Thank you. My fire report for the month of April is on the file. I'm here if you have any questions, but I'd like to utilize this time to recognize some of our fire poster contest winners. We have 2 out of the 4. 2 are able to come tonight. The third said they would be here, but they've not showed up. I don't know if the construction will be a hindrance, but if he shows up, we'll recognize him as well. I wanted to go over a few little facts about the poster contest winners. This is I've only been doing this here in Arlington now. This will be my 8th year this September. And every year we've had winners in the poster contest. And we always say, hey, how big is this contest? Because it's statewide. Every year in the month of October, the State of Tennessee Fire Marshal's Office hosts a Fire Marshal's poster contest on a theme that has to do with fire safety for that month. And then it went across the state, kind of some statistics here. There was 19 different cities that took advantage of this with 31 different schools. There was a total of 144 entries, and out of those entries, 4 of them were from the town of Arlington. And so we'd like to take this time to recognize them tonight. First we have, and they've already had a poster contest luncheon with the State Fire Marshal up in Nashville. They had that back in April. Didn't find out about it, so I was unable to attend. So this is the second time we've been able to recognize our winners. So first I want to bring Miss Hannah Drace up here. So Miss Hannah, if you can come. And this is her poster here. She is actually the Commissioner's Choice Award winner for the fire poster contest. And with that, the state gives each one of the winners a check for $50. Awesome. So this is her check from the state of Tennessee. The other winners have already had theirs. And this is the Fire Marshal's Poster Contest Winner Award. So these are going to be for you. Let me give those to you. Thank you. And then on behalf of the town of Arlington, we'd also like to, oh, you can't go off yet. And, on the behalf of the town of Arlington, we'd also like to give you an award, Commissioner Choice Award for 2024 Fire Prevention Poster Contest. We'll have you up in just a minute to take a picture with the mayor and with me. Thank you very much. Appreciate your hard work. I failed to mention that Hannah goes to Donaldson Elementary, and her art teacher is Miss Natalie Morgan. We have very gifted teachers and very gifted art teachers within the town of Arlington. They take this fire poster contest seriously and encourage the students to use those gifts that God given them to do these posters. Next, I just saw Thomas come in. So Thomas, if I could have you come up front. This is his poster entry. You got to go to the awards banquet in Nashville as well, so you've gotten your check. So this is his poster. Miss Melanie Anderson could not be here today. That's the art teacher for the other 3 winners. She had a death in the family and sends her best to all 3 of her winners. So very good job to use your talents. We also have a certificate for you on behalf of the town of Arlington. Thomas, thank you. Appreciate your hard work. The next winner is Ella Hawkins. She could not be here. She's the 11th grade winner. We'll make sure that the certificate that the mayor has provided gets to her and her home. But next, we'd like to bring up Miss McGuire Jones. McGuire's here joined by her family. McGuire was able to make it to the Nashville because her brother made sure that I was aware that I wasn't at the banquet in Nashville. So, so thank you for your talents as well. She's also, I just spoke to her a minute ago, she is going to go into graphic design. So she's starting college next semester into graphic design. So again, certificate for a first place winner, 12th grade from the town of Arlington and the mayor. Very good job. Very proud of you. If it would be possible to have all winners come up front, the 3 winners, and Mayor, if you wouldn't mind coming down, we'll get Miss Angela to take a quick picture. Eric, would you join us, please? If you could bring your certificate, especially you bring yours from the stage. Mayor, come here in the center, okay? Y'all will to show your certificates.
Chief,
That concludes the poster contest winners for 2024. Any other questions about the report or anything else? Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, Chief, for taking that on every year. I know, especially with Chief McMillan, that was kind of like his little baby also, so with him not being here right now. But congratulations to you all here. And I will say this, I know it's a school night, or some of you may be graduating or out of school now and don't want to have to be here. We're not going to be offended if y'all want to get up and leave, because this meeting's probably going to go on for a little bit longer. So we always take this time. If y'all want to, if you're more than welcome to stay, but I didn't know if dinner or other opportunities were awaiting. And it is Cinco de Mayo, so. You're welcome. Thank y'all. Congratulations. I do want to note on the agenda, we do have a slight change. It's item E, the first reading of the budget. We will have a small discussion. There was some changes today from the state and the assessor's office that may alter it. We'll let staff explain that at that time. And I don't think it's going to be a voting item tonight, but we will discuss it quickly at that time and make a decision from there. I just want to give everybody that heads up front. I do want to thank staff. I know a lot of work went in Arlington in April. One of our big signature events just went on. Thank you for all the work. It was a beautiful day, and it was a great event. I've heard nothing but great things. So thank you all for that. We do have Music on the Square coming up starting this month, third Saturday of each month. And if the weather's nice, it'll be, Market on the Square. That's this weekend, right? Yeah. 10th. First market's this weekend. You're confusing me, Harry.
The 10th.
Okay, this Saturday. Ms. Tanya couldn't be here tonight, but she did want me to pass on that at the chamber lunch on the 14th, that the president of the Veterans Home Association will be speaking. So we do know that they're getting close sometime this summer, hopefully. I'm not sure the exact date and how they're going to do their opening, but if you want to get any information on it, I'm sure that's the best place to be. So that's Wednesday the 14th. And Ms. Tanya just says, if you're going to come, just let her know, and that way she can put down and make sure there's enough food. And then as you all see, we've got construction going on here. It's just started, not really the bad stuff yet. That'll start after the 19th, after we actually do the moving. But so look forward to some changes over the next 6 months of kind of cramming in to this building or this part of the building and whatever we have to do to accommodate. But I know it's going to be an inconvenience on staff, but it'll pay off in the end. Any announcements from the board?
I wanted to take a second to,
Is your microphone on?
yeah, I think so, to compliment the town staff. I talked to Lee before the meeting, but Arlington in April, it's just my opinion, but it was a big improvement from last year. And it was obvious to me that we strategically went out and got vendors that were more in the arts, and we had a lot of food vendors. And then also, I don't remember what you called it, but the kids market was a great addition. And so, I left home thinking, well, I don't know that the crowd was that much bigger, but I think it's going to start getting bigger. Just from the standpoint, I think that the word is going to spread that how good this last one was. So I wanted to give you guys a compliment on that.
Any other announcements? I did see, we had a sheriff's, Captain Chief back there. Chief, were you here to say anything tonight, or? I'm sorry if I didn't see you hiding out back there. If you want to come
Come tonight, and I introduce myself as the Alderman Mayor, for those of you who don't know who I am. My name's Mark Callahall. I was recently transferred last year to the operations commander at the substation. So I've got traffic, I've got all the schools, the SROs, I've got the K-9, DUI, and traffic cars. Excuse me, so I want to let you know, I'm at your disposal. Any meetings that you guys will have, like the health and safety issues, I'll be attending those from here on out. I meant to do it last year, but I had to have shoulder replacement, so I just recently returned back to work a couple months ago. So I want to make myself at your disposal. In the event you need anything in the town, I'm just a phone call away, and I will be attending the meetings monthly here
Okay.
in Lakeland.
Okay, well, thank you. So does staff have the contact?
We do, he's already been very helpful.
Okay, so I guess I was, well, I always had Captain, okay.
Les.
No, not Captain, no, that was Lieutenant Les. Captain, female that just got, she's in Homeland Security.
Nikki Masters.
Captain Masters, yeah. I always had her on my speed dial. So who is do you have our direct point of contact? I mean, is it, nobody always wants to go to the chief first, so, okay. All right, I'll get that number from you. So, I don't know, I know there's been some changes and some moving around of some folks, so.
There's been some changes, yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you earlier when
No,
the
that's
sheriff's
okay. I
department.
was sitting in listening more than anything else.
Okay, well, thank you, and it's.
Thank you for having me.
And you don't, and same thing, you don't feel like you have to stay around for the whole meeting.
I know. I'm used to going to the ones in Collierville, so I've been there for a while.
There you go.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here, and you're always welcome, but I think, you know, it's really what you got time on your hands for. Thank you. Any other announcements? Committees met last month, Financial Advisory, had the last wrap-up meeting, and I don't see any of them here tonight, but I do want to thank the Financial Advisory Committee for the last 5 months of meeting, 4 or 5 months. Some of the meetings they weren't too terribly long, they ran pretty smooth, but still, it's still time out of people's volunteering. Planning Commission met last night, Health and Safety Committee. Any reports from those? And then Treasurer's reports on file. So we do have a consent agenda, items A through F. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Brooks. Second. Second by Mr. Barker. All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. On to no other old business, new business. Item A, first reading of ordinance 2025-1 to amend Title VII Fire Protection Fireworks for the Town of Arlington Municipal Code. I think, and just before we get into it, we do have several first readings tonight, so just remind everybody, you know, we'll get the information tonight, and if there's stuff that we need to send back to staff or back to the attorney or whatever to get clarity on, we can hammer that down in between first and second reading. Ms. Reeder.
Hi. Good evening. This is a joint presentation of myself and the chief here, so I'll just run through it quickly. The ordinance in front of you, 2025-01, is to amend Title VII, which is our fire code in Arlington. This was updated in 2016, where we adopted the 2012 edition of the International Fire Code, along with several of the appendices and some local amendments that went along with that. What we're proposing now is to update those regulations by incorporating the 2021 Fire Code edition, the appendices that go along with that, and then again some local amendments. The amendments that we're proposing include continuing several that were already in place here, as well as bringing their code up to speed a little bit regarding some outdated language, to codify some standards that the staff has been requiring of people, just to make it clearer in the beginning for developers and other people in town, and then just to make sure we're conforming with current practices. Just a couple quick changes of note. We've added some language regarding lithium batteries, which we actually pulled from the 2024 code. And that one may be adopted one day, but it is not being proposed tonight. There's still some things being worked out with that code. There's some language in here regarding widening some fire access roads with some flexibility for the chief if a narrow road makes sense. Clarifying how gross floor area is measured, removing some service fees for emergency services to non-residents, which is something we have not been enforcing. Adding some standards for fire hydrants, public and private, which is, again, those are some of the things we've been requiring, but putting it in the code to make it clear and make it easier for them to enforce that. And then there is some language in here regarding some outdoor public fireworks displays, and those having to come before the board. Technically, that's covered by the special events permit of the code that we already have. But since we have a fireworks section, repeating that here just to make sure it's not missed was something we thought would be worthwhile. So several other things within. Chief can answer any questions on specifics, but we're recommending approval of the ordinance. So,
You've heard the recommendation from Ms. Reader. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Barker, second by Mr. Harmon. Discussion or questions? Again, first reading. Some of this is pretty standard, just with codes getting updated. There's actually an update beyond this, but it takes a lot of time to update the codes, to do it all at once, and that's why sometimes it's done incrementally. Questions?
I had a couple. So there's one about homes, a certain linear footage off the road that would need to be sprinklered. And we're talking about 2,000 square foot and greater?
So that code is actually part of the fire sprinkler ordinance that we're going to accept or bring before you.
First reading is the next item.
So we can address it here if you like, or we can address it at the,
it's required to be taken forward as two separate items by the
okay.
state, so that's why it's separated out.
Okay, he'll ask that in a second.
of course, we'd already had a residential sprinkler ordinance in our previous version. We just increased the requirements for it in this one. MTS said since we were grandfathered in, we didn't have to separate it, but it was highly recommended that we did. Legal also did the same advice and said that we separate those two, accept an individual residential sprinkler ordinance as well as update the code on two separate bills.
So real quick, on your next presentation, is it going to have more detail on that? So we'll just, so May
So
answer.
under A right now is what we're looking at for fireworks and fire protection.
And this covers the other things we talked about, your fire access road, your appendices for the 2021. It talks about your labeling for your lightweight truss construction, all those things that are in the code before, just add some clarity to it for this one.
Is this where the EV discussion is?
The EV is in this one as well, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The 2021 code does not address any lithium-ion storage usage or anything like that. It was recommended again to adopt that out of the 2024 code in its entirety into this section, is what we've done here and what's presented to you, because of the high risk for EV. Those that deal with it understand the risk for that, and it prevents a residential home from bringing in any of those lithium and start doing a business out of their home because of that. And it goes into great detail, how many storage batteries you can have, separation distances, protection distances, all that for the lithium-ion storage.
But someone that owns an EV, okay.
But I would
I'll have to admit, I own one, and so it caught my eye, and so it's a personal issue, but at the same time, I don't want to see people we're pricing people out of homes and stuff because they're having to do things in their homes just to
no
own a
impact
vehicle.
on the individual owner of any, because I'm like you, I have tons of lithium-ion, there's probably 5 in my car as I speak.
Yep.
So it's more to deal with business, and our businesses that come into town, what's regulating them. To give you a kind of synopsis, there's probably over 200 fires a month in the city of New York related to EV-type fires and residences. It's that dangerous. So we're trying to address it ahead of time. We have, as far as I know, we've had 0 issues other than 2 golf carts catch fire inside of a garage space. Both were EV-type batteries, and a total loss. For one of the homes, we were able to confine it to the garage of the other, but that was EV-related. But this ordinance adoption will not impact that at all because it doesn't regulate that.
Okay.
Did that answer your questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chief, because there was a regulation in there about a permit or something, the permit is then not
For businesses, no, sir. Only deal with businesses.
only not for individuals.
Correct. Yes, sir. You're correct.
There's electrical code that does people with the charging.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Right. It's intended for like bulk storage, so it's requiring separation, things like that.
There's some general language in there, so.
And we didn't amend any of the lithium language. It comes straight out of the code. And for those that are familiar enough with the code is the minimum. That would be a C passing in school. For me, I used to get on my kids for making a C. They need to have a B or an A. The code that we're presenting is C passing code, so that's the minimum. When you adopt code, it's the bare minimum that you're gonna do for safety. You would want to exceed, and that's what we're gonna talk about in the residential sprinkler. There is above the code recommendation for y'all, but that's the current code. For the lithium is the C passing minimum.
Any other questions on this particular adoption, first reading? Of course, if you do, Chief is available, Angela's available.
If I don't have it, I'll go research and get it back to you before the next reading.
And we plan to put this on the second reading in June? So you have a month to get it. Email, questions, whatever, ask staff. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the first reading, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Next up, item B, first reading of ordinance 2025-2 to amend Title 7, Section 7205, automatic sprinkler requirements for the Town of Arlington Municipal Code regarding 1 and 2 family dwellings. Mr. Harville and Ms. Reeder.
It's a team effort. Okay, so as we mentioned, this is to run concurrently. It's intended to go with the last amendment, but it is required per Tennessee State Code to be separate so that you're fully considering it. In 2005, so 20 years ago, the town fire code was updated to require that any new homes built or any renovated 1 or 2 family homes, so single family homes, that exceeded 5,000 square feet should have an automatic sprinkler system in it. We've seen a lot of growth since 2005, and the fire department has learned some lessons applying the code that we had in place. So when we were looking at this amendment to update the code, there were some suggestions that we're proposing here tonight. The proposal is to maintain the 5,000 minimum trigger for an automatic sprinkler system as we have had, but to add 2 additional triggers. One of them would be if a home exceeded 2,000 square feet and was more than 300 feet distance away from a fire access road, and that being a road that the fire department could get vehicles on to service a home in case of a fire event. This is based on, and this is my interpretation, and Chief can correct me, basically the reasonable distance for carrying a fire hose, because that means you're going to be 300 feet away and you're going to carry that hose in. So that would be a second trigger that would require a home have a sprinkler system. The third one is that if a home was located more than 700 feet from a hydrant that was capable of supplying fire flow to the site. This is based on the shortest length of hose that's carried on the responding piece of town equipment. So we went through and looked at all that and saw that if you're more than 700 feet away, they would not be able to get that hose to your location. So again, requesting that be another trigger that would require a sprinkler system in a single family home. Just for comparison, there's a lot of different variety of requirements all across just Shelby County in our region here. They go from cities that have no requirement at all for sprinklers, such as Millington, to Piperton that requires every new building and residence be sprinklered. Similar to us, Germantown and Collierville have a minimum size. Theirs is 5,500. They also have some of those setback requirements in place. So we felt this is consistent with other cities that are putting this in place in the area. And so we are recommending approval of this ordinance 2025-02 regarding single-family sprinkler system requirements. And
You've heard the recommendation by Mrs. Reeder. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Brooks, second by Mr. Harmon. Discussion, questions?
What was the second one you said, I know the 5,000 square foot?
First of all, let me thank Ms. Angela. She was integral in getting this together. She had to take an old document, and the formatting was very messed up, sat through meetings with MTAS, discussions with other fire marshals and other departments, taking my chicken scratch and my notes and my emails, and then sharing that with you guys. So we wouldn't be where we are today had it not been for Mrs. Durant's guidance and Angela's persistence to get this. So we decided to keep the current 5,000 square foot minimum requirement for residential R2 and 3 requirements. It was already in the code. We just brought that forward. We kept that and didn't increase it. And from my position, you'll never see me increase the square footage for a residential. If anything, I will always want to make it more stringent. So I'll always want to go down. You're not going to ever see me. It'll have to be a majority vote to vote against it, and that's with your power to do it, but I'll always stay 5,000 or less. Since that's currently presenting is the 5,000. What we did is added a clarification for gross. We had a builder come in quite some time ago, and somehow it started being assumed that it was heated square footage. We referenced the code. It was plainly in the one that we previously had was gross. It's always been gross. I don't know where heated ever came from. So we wanted to make sure that it was clear in here, and so we pulled it from the International Building Code, the definition of gross. We had a guy came in with over 5,000 square foot home, and he deducted his interior walls from that. You cannot do that either. It counts as your gross square footage of livable space. And so that's what we're presenting here, just the same as it was before, just adding clarity. Going back to Alderman McKee's point, what's new is the requirement for homes that are set off. I would say well over 90% of the homes within the town of Arlington, of course, you know the water supply better than I do, our hydrants are 1,000 foot apart. We don't have anywhere in the town of Arlington we have to do hauled water or drafting water. Everything is on a public supplied water system. But we do have several homes that are well off the road on a private drive. Many of those private drives are inaccessible to fire trucks. Our fire trucks range anywhere from 30 to 40 tons, which is very heavy. Breaks up most drives if we try to drive down them. Most of those drives have low-hanging limbs or personal gates that we can't get down. So it's very hazardous for us to get off-road. I don't see that ever taking a case in a plan development. Jeremy is very stringent on setbacks. You guys are very stringent on setbacks as far as side yard and front yards go. We're talking a home that is in 300 foot, in excess of 300 foot. That's a football field. That's a substantial distance from a fire access road, which is that public roadway that our fire truck comes down. The hydrant requirement, and if it's 250 feet, no requirement at all for a sprinkler system. If it's more than 300 feet, greater than 2,000 feet or square foot, gross square foot space, they're going to have, if you approve sprinkler system. 700 foot, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
700 foot is the hydrant on the fire access road. So my home is here, 250 foot back, it's not required. If I'm 750 foot away from that hydrant on the road, I'll be required to sprinkle. And that's based on what Mrs. Reeder was saying. What we expect a four-man company to hand carry, in this case, it would be 2.5 inch line, because we only carry 200 foot of 1 3/4. So they'd have to hand carry an attack line up the road. That's about as much as you expect a four-man crew to carry. We only carry 700 foot of 5 inch attack supply line. Therefore, anything greater than that, we're gonna have to wait on another company to come in and supply additional water line to be able to do that. It's not always guaranteed that we'll have that other Arlington company in place. We would have to wait on Shelby County to come in here and provide that, and they're 8.5 to 12.5 minutes away. So that's that additional square footage and distance.
I saw that, but you said on B and C,
Yes, sir.
2,000 square foot home also, if, on both of those?
It's so it's 2,000 square foot.
And 300 feet away.
Correct.
If it's less than 2,000 square feet, it doesn't matter.
No, sir, that 5,000 square foot clause takes in place.
5,000 on the number one.
Yes, sir.
Now, what you said was you'd always go up or down. It's okay to go up to 6,000
No, he said no. He said he would go down.
Okay,
Down
sir.
to 4,000.
Yes, sir.
That's right, that's
Yes,
what
sir,
you're
that's
saying.
exactly right.
I
Did
heard
that
you.
answer your question, sir? No.
Mr. Biggs? did you-
On the existing homes that are grandfathered in, does that include, let's say if they do a remodel and they have to pull permits for a remodel, are they still grandfathered in?
The way our current ordinance reads, it has to be a remodel of greater than 50% to bring it up to code. So if I go in there and add a bedroom or just remodel the interior and it's not greater than 50%, it's not required, no, sir.
Wait a second. So to that same question, so if you remodel, not adding on, but if you have a, let's, to kind of piggyback on what he's saying, gross is basically everything total on the roof,
Minus the garage and.
minus the garage, porches? I mean, because there's,
Porches
people
minus the porches,
people
yes, sir.
calculate all the time
It's
the different gross.
Gross living space is what it is.
Gross living space. So attic count?
Attic does not count.
Attic does not count.
No,
Okay.
sir. And for residential, the attic's not even sprinkled, so it's just the living space. A residential sprinkled home is totally different than a commercial sprinkled home.
But
A
isn't-
commercial sprinkled home, the building is protected. We're gonna protect the building and the occupants. For a residential sprinkler system, it's just the livable space that's sprinkled, and it's only to prevent that flashover for life safety of the occupants inside.
So, but heated, you said heated and gross, but heated is basically gross if it's living space.
It is, but under the definition of heated, you subtract the walls. We're not subtracting walls, we're sticking with gross, which is under the International Building Code.
Okay, so back to his question, and sorry to piggyback, I wanna, so I have a house, I have a 5,000 square foot house, and I remodeled the entire downstairs, I gotta put a sprinkler system in?
If it's only 5,000, no, sir. If it's greater than 5,000.
I thought you said if it's, no, you said if we remodel 50%.
The addition
Is
is more
that,
than 50.
the addition, that's what okay, you said remodel and addition, so that's what I heard it wrong, I heard it wrong.
More than 50%.
Okay.
No?
I think
I
it's
thought
if
they
it's
just-
renovated,
Renovation.
Renovation.
If an existing house, because we've accepted that somebody had a 5,100 square foot gross house.
That's a matter, I'm so smaller.
Remodeled it.
Is that what you were asking, Jeremy? Is that what you were?
Yeah, I was just asking, yeah, if they remodel their house, sometimes you remodel a house, you gotta pull permits, so is that gonna trigger them to
well,
have
and
to?
the other question is if the bottom of the house floods,
There-
upper part doesn't,
It may be, we have to look up a definition because our current code says renovated. So I'm not sure the difference between a remodel and a renovation.
So is that something you guys can find and email out to us?
Look up in the building code, yes,
We'll
sir.
confirm that typically it's more than half the value of the entire home. if
But
you're
like,
going by the
but like he said,
definition.
a flooded house could be a remodel or a renovate, either one, so.
Usually the grandfather provision is for more than 50%. You're allowed to do a grandfather provision if it's less than 50%. I think that's where the 50% comes from. If
Believe
it's
so.
an existing non-conforming use, that's what we would be doing is we would be possibly creating existing non-conforming uses. If the house burned down,
you're not helping.
tornado or something, if the house was torn down and you had to rebuild it, but if there was damage up to in excess of 50%.
You would
That's my
have-
interpretation.
You would have them meet, but we'll confirm and make sure that is the correct.
Because here's what's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna say, man, I wanna remodel my house, all right? I wanna remodel the entire downstairs because it's 30 years old and we want it to be updated. They're gonna remodel a part of it and pull a permit for a bedroom and a bathroom. And then they're gonna turn around, they're gonna pull a permit for whatever. You're not gonna get a sprinkler system out of it, is what I'm saying.
But
Because
you
they're gonna,
will, because if they exceed the 5,000, we have a system in place currently to catch that.
no, but what I'm saying is if I'm remodeling my bathroom, bedroom, kitchen, everything, I'm gonna say, hey, guys, we're gonna do the bathroom and bedroom first on one permit, and we're gonna do that, and then,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and then I'm gonna do the kitchen.
You're not adding.
And then, no, I'm not adding anything, but I'm gonna renovate, and I'm gonna do it piece by piece with my contractor, so I don't have to pay for a
I don't
sprinkler
see us
system.
enforcing that portion of it.
I mean, my problem with that would be, is you're making it cost prohibitive for somebody to update their house.
Well, I mean, they'd have to do enough of a renovation that it exceeded half the total cost of the slab, the full house. I mean, so that's a pretty big renovation for them to do.
Not if,
Not saying that people
not if you have a big downstairs and only 2
it's
bedrooms
not. I
upstairs
mean,
or something, so that's.
Those, the homes you're referring
And
to
then
now-
we gotta put sprinkler system in the upstairs, even though we're not renovating the upstairs, but or is it only the renovated part? I
It
mean,
would be the house once you triggered it, but we'll confirm
Okay.
how the language.
That one sounds like it's got a little
Scenario's
heartache.
realistic, though.
But if it says it in code, I don't want to get it wrong and us,
Right.
You want to say more or less increasing 50%, right?
I don't know if I really,
I don't know if I wanna do it.
in a because I had a flooded house.
It's already in the ordinance. That portion is already in the existing ordinance. It's already in there about,
But I'm saying, is this the time to correct it if that's the,
I think the issue is we're clarifying the gross versus heated. If people were allowed construction without under a previous, we now reinterpret the interpretation of gross, is that they're not in the same position that they were previously. That these people may have been allowed to build a house that maybe was gross over 5,000 square feet, but under heated 5,000 square feet. That's I believe that's.
I'm only aware of one instance that's occurred.
So I have another question.
Clarify renovated versus remodeled.
So if, for a home sprinkler system, okay, do you just hook up the sprinkler system to the potable water? Or is there, like, if you're 300 feet off the road, are they gonna have to run a separate line from the
They'll run
road?
a larger supply line.
Yeah, it has to be a separate line.
Is a larger supply line, but not a separate?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not installed.
Because you're making
I
it,
can find out for you. I can bring, if you're interested, I can bring a expert in that here to address those concerns if you want to talk to them about it.
like, my concern on that is that somebody has a large piece of land, they want to live away from, I'm thinking about people south of I-40, land that's down there.
that's our
They don't want to live up by the road, they want to live, are we making it so cost prohibitive to buy or for them to build a 2,000 square foot house? I don't know what the cost difference would be. I'm not so concerned about the sprinklers in the house, but if you have to run a separate line.
I can give you an example. Ron Wickens, everybody knows where Ron Wickens lives. He lives pretty far back. At the time, what we had them do was run a separate line, but you still couldn't get enough supply to him as far back as he sits, but he has a pond out front. So that line was run to a hydrant or
A dry hydrant.
dry hydrant that he, to draft the pond through the hydrant into the hose to fight a fire in that home. So, you know, there are several different ways.
That issue has been recently
It's been resolved.
addressed, and I want to say it was exorbitantly expensive to make that correction.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking about a 2,000 square foot home. That's like the type of home that I want to move down to. And I understand the safety part of it, but I'm also kind of going like, man, are you basically telling people that this just can't not cost, doesn't make sense for you to build a home, you're not even gonna be able to build a 2,000 square foot home. I get it for like a 5,000 square foot home that's in the neighborhood. When we build a big neighborhood that's got 5,000 square foot homes, which hopefully one day we can have that. But,
The current price for a residential sprinkler is about $1.50 to $2 a square foot, which is about the cost of stone countertops.
oh, so you're talking the square footage of the house. You're taking a 2,000 square foot house, it costs about $2,000.
A little over $2,000.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, I mean, that's,
Is that including the supply to the house?
The supply's different. The
you say,
supply's different.
did you say $2,000? That's more than that.
For the-
That's more than that.
he says,
If it's a 5,000 square foot house, that's 7,500 to 10,000.
I'm talking about for 2,000 square foot houses.
Oh, 2,000, yeah, you're right, you're right.
2,000 square foot house.
But I don't know about the supply. I can look in that up and try to get that.
Be about $4,000 for a 2,000 square foot house.
Oh, I thought you said $1. How much?
$1.50.
$1.50 to $2 a square foot
Oh,
for
$2,
residential
okay.
So
sprinklers.
250.
That's for sprinkleries, pipe, everything, you turn on the house.
Yes, sir.
So, I was gonna talk about the 5,000, you had that question.
Well, I got,
Go ahead.
if somebody wants to build a house on 50 acres, a half mile off the road, To me, this is between them and their insurance company. They're not affecting any neighbors, they're not affecting anything else. I don't care if it's 8,000 square foot, 10,000 square foot. I want to encourage people to come out, and I'm afraid that we're discouraging people to come into our town south of 40 and develop those types of homes, such as Franklin, Brentwood, et cetera, to build. And that's my biggest concern. And I completely respect and understand from the academic side and from the firefighter side, like, we want to do it to the code, but we also have to balance it with, we want those homes in Arlington and not going somewhere else. And we've got plenty of properties south of the interstate that can, and now I'm with him, with Jeremy, where, Mr. Biggs, where if it's in a neighborhood and they're 5-foot side yard setbacks, then maybe we do it. Which I'll still argue that a 2,500 square foot house, 5-foot setback away from another 2,500 square foot, they're still the same distance apart as a 5,000 square foot house or a 10,000 square foot. The setback is the same regardless of it. And so that's where I'm like, I don't even think we ought to have the ordinance, but I probably won't win that argument.
Let me give you another example of what you're talking about. So is anybody aware of the houses that are built off Chambers Channel?
Yes.
They're all sharing an access drive. So legally, they're all flag lots and they all own a little piece of something that's required. So those homes were built back there where we told them we could not provide fire service that far back off the road. And those homeowners had to write us a letter stating that they understood that there was no fire service, that could get back there to fight homes at the fires in those homes.
And then, I mean,
Which that's an argument between them and their insurance company
So,
on
so
that.
in the instance that you're describing, it's a legal question, but I know we've done it in the past for a few of those houses back there.
If they have a fire, they're gonna call us irregardless of that letter. And the
They
problem,
have slab protection.
Yeah.
Their concrete slab will still be intact when.
when they got their family inside, they're still gonna make a call to us. And what's gonna happen is it ultimately falls back on these firefighters. You know, we can say, hey, don't worry about doing the sprinkler system, but these guys are still gonna have to crawl through there. And I think a lot of this, with the sprinkler systems, is to help protect not only the citizens that live there, but our firefighters that's going in there to look for them. So, you know, that's the main thing we gotta take into consideration. You know, because everybody say, hey, I'll save $1. And, you know, I'm not gonna put this in. But then, like I said, 2 years later, they're gonna call up, hey, my house is on fire. My kids are inside. Can you get here pretty quick and cross through there and get them? You know, it's too late to talk about it then.
Well, I'm in a weird spot being a firefighter, and just because, I mean, I do know that the sprinklers can help, but I don't know, I mean, 5,000 has been a number that scared me for quite some time, and that scared me because I understand Chief's point, and it's not, I mean, trust me whatsoever, I'm trying to look at it from a board point, a homeowner's point. I mean, I'm trying to think of Hickory Grove. I'm trying to think of the subdivision when Dr. Kumar came about, we were saying we want you to build bigger houses on small lots. And, you know, of course, we would cover all that during during the development as far as the hydrants and all that. But I worry about, 5,000 square feet is kind of an average number, like when you look at those type homes. And so, I mean, that's why I worry that, again, all we do is we get everybody to change their number to 4990, and it doesn't really change anything.
But
So
we could do that with any number.
you can, and that's why everything's an arbitrary number. But what I'm saying is, so like there was a house in Bartlett I drove by, and they just renovated or tore down an old one. It was 12,000 square feet. I called Chief Gately, and I said, where is this monstrosity? I said, what's y'all's code? He goes, we don't have one. Now, granted, they have, 5 stations, Chief, and we have 2, and everybody, Piperton has, volunteer? Are they more volunteer? So everybody's got a different scenario. I'm glad you gave those numbers. There's no county requirement, right? So, there's basically none in Bartlett, none in Millington, 5,000 in Piperton, 5,500 in Collierville and Germantown, no county. And then I don't know what Lakeland is.
I'm not sure about Lakeland.
But it would, let's be honest, I don't know what they're doing, but X out a lot of houses there or include a lot of houses. So I'm kind of torn on the number. I'm not necessarily against residential sprinklers. I just don't know the number is where I'm open for discussion on that is what I'm saying.
Language for heated versus non-heated was a way for us to say you could exclude the garage. So basically, aren't what you said, isn't that what you're saying? If you exclude the garage and the porches, it's the same thing as how we're calculating it
But we're
now.
not deducting interior walls, correct?
But
You know,
It's in the International Building Code, the definition of gross. And we put it verbatim in the code that you have before you.
You can also find it in
Well,
NFPA.
it did not say heated before. It said gross.
Similar thing in the NFPA code.
so,
So, yeah, just to clarify, it said gross previously. It didn't say anything about heated. So we've left that the way it is, but we just further defined what gross meant to try to make it easier, but it sounds like we may have confused.
so we need some clarity on that via email. Again, this is first reading. We're hearing some concerns about 2,000 square feet. I don't know where everybody is on the 5,000, but I mean, those are things that maybe we need to communicate with staff between now and the next reading. And if it doesn't, we don't get the information, we can roll it back to August.
one thing I'll just
We don't have to
add-
rush it.
That's correct.
One thing I'll just add, I'm not saying I'm for or against, but something that's going through my mind is we compete with Hickory With, and right now, they're winning on getting the $1 million homes. We're losing on getting the $1 million homes. And so in my mind, I'm going, okay, is this just another thing that a developer is going to look and say, man, that's a lot of cost that's going to add, it's going to be added to this development where I can just go to Hickory With and I can build these $1 million homes. And so I just want to throw that out there as well.
I know the state of Tennessee, if you look it up, they recommend 5,000. They don't require 5,000.
And that's kind of where I asked that question before. I was like, is there a number where we could say we recommend or highly recommend? And then there's a 500 or whatever that number may be, or 1,000, whatever square foot difference to where, there's no playing with numbers between here and there, but they'll still play with them.
Saying, yes, house sprinklers can save lives by significantly reducing the risk of death and injury in the home fires. They recommend them 5,000 or above because their statistics said they do save lives from that. That's all I can say. I don't care which one.
Well, due to extreme weather patterns, you have had more increase in fast-moving residential fires through neighborhoods because of dry vegetation and houses that are too close, those kinds of things. So I think we need to take our time and look at all of it and maybe bring it back before you if we're prepared.
Yeah, so item A seems a little easier to go ahead and move forward. Item B may take a little bit of time just to clear up everything, so.
For me, the 5,000 square foot is quite reasonable, because if you take every piece of equipment that we have in this city to fight one residential fire, you're putting everybody else's life in jeopardy. That's how I look at it. You can look at it any way you want to. I look at it based on every piece of equipment, one fire, while everybody else suffers if there's something happens outside of that one particular fire.
Except for one thing, except for one thing, and I'm not totally disagreeing with you, except for one thing, and that's that we have agreements with Shelby County and other
get it, but
towns,
that's-
because our equipment goes to other places to support them daily, and vice versa. So we have more than 2 stations through our agreement, through our cooperative agreement with everyone. So it's not just that equipment, not just that. That's why we write those contracts and agreements with everyone so that we can support that. Me personally, I would, if we're gonna use an arbitrary number of 5,000, I could see it being the one where you're like more than 250 foot and 700 using 5,000 square foot as your number. Or if you wanted to say also anything greater than 5,000 square foot that has less than a 5-foot setback on the yard space, I can get behind that. I struggle with the 2,000 square foot we're becoming so cost prohibitive to develop the houses we want to see come in. And the truth is, there's not gonna be many houses built 2,000 square foot on a 20-acre lot in Arlington, but it still can happen, and I don't wanna be cost prohibitive. I mean, but me personally, I'd be fine if somebody's gonna build it on 25, 30 acres and didn't want a sprinkler system. That's between them and their insurance company, but.
The 2,000 is not an arbitrary number. It's based on what a single man company can go in and put out, 25%, less than 50%, GPM wise. So Germantown, Fryerville, our ordinance is based on current configurations of our apparatus, current capabilities of the hose that we carried, and the amount of fire that you would estimate a single company put out with the GPM face on that hose line. So anything over that, you're looking at a lot of variables that we have no control over. That we can control. I can put an engine at a fire and let them get a supply line.
Okay, so on that,
Anything out of that is out
on that
of-
same question, because you said it was and, right?
This is and, yes.
And.
sir. Yes.
So the and, if they got a sprinkler system that's gonna help, and granted, I understand the link, but putting a fire plug in is very costly. And you're making them put whatever size they're 2,000 or more, you know, so.
And also too, if you think about it, increased flow rate requirements in the other part, plus how far we have to run that supply line.
Well, I know about friction loss and all that, so, but what I'm talking about, are we, at this point, depending on the side of the road, are we worried more about saving lives with the sprinkler on one off the road and not necessarily extinguishing the fire, kind of like the agreement you're talking about? And so that's why the and kind of concerns me on that. That's.
The protection system for the residents is not to save the home, it's to save the residents, hands down, period.
So, I mean, so for those like I said, I don't know what it costs to put a fire plug in, but I know when Orion Hill had to put a commercial one in, you know, or they had to put one in back there on their road, which is, they were a commercial business. And I'm trying to think of some other places where I see some roads where that could happen, but.
Mr. Wickham just added 3 to his property.
So I could see the sprinkler definitely on the run, the fire plug, like I said, both, the and kind of, so we may need, that's just me.
So I just know how people are and how I would be if I were in this situation so it's 2,000 square foot and 250 linear footage from 300.
Yes, sir.
So 299, I'm good.
Yes, sir, you're good.
Okay, that's my point, is that,
And you have to put a number somewhere.
Yeah.
or you don't, because people are just going to go 1 foot inside of it, and
1 foot inside you could reach with the hose there, I mean, technically speaking.
I'm just.
We know how you are. We've already had the lighting complaint on your backyard, lighting up your pool.
That's right. But, you know, I just know that that's what people will do to.
We're currently dealing with that with the current code. So we have people with the current code doing right to the line. So it's not gonna change no matter what we enforce. There's gonna be that group of people that are gonna go right to that area and say, no.
Or just tell people you can't build past 100 foot.
That's kind of hard too. So, all right, so it sounds like we got some more homework to do on this. I mean, not that y'all haven't done your homework, we appreciate that, but I'm saying, I think you're going to have to get some information to us. There's probably going to be some questions that'll float back to you all. We'll plan on item A, unless there's a lot of hiccup from the thing being on the agenda, probably in June. But this one, we're not going to rush till June, so we don't have a meeting in July, so, yeah. So who do you?
Too is refurbish or whatever.
Yeah, do you want us, instead of emailing y'all or as a group, do you just want us to email Miss Angela?
Angela, please.
We'll just email Angela and she can share with Chief and get it back. Okay, we'll do it like that.
Angela, my mind hasn't changed. We've talked extensively, so you know where I'm at.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other discussion right now on item B? Seeing none, all in favor of the first reading, say aye. Opposed? I think that was everybody's aye, so it was just a little quieter aye. That item passes. Thank y'all. Item C, I guess I didn't say aye out loud, but I meant aye for the first reading. Item C, first reading of ordinance 2025-03 to amend readopt the Town of Arlington sewer use ordinance in compliance with national pretreatment regulations. Mr. Perkins, are you presenting this one?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
The existing program requires each industry to have at least one scheduled and one non-scheduled monitoring visit per year. But it does not define what constitutes a monitoring event. So the town is requesting modifications to the program to clarify and reduce minimum frequency of required sampling events and inspection events at the significant industrial users to once every 12 months in accordance with minimum state and federal requirements. Additional sampling and inspection events may be conducted as needed. This is just to kind of clean up language and get in line with what the rest of the state is doing in accordance with state and federal guidelines.
You've heard the recommendation by Mr. Perkins. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. McKee.
Second.
Second by Mr. Harmon. Discussion or questions? Sounds pretty straightforward. Pretty much. Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That item passes. Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Item D, first reading of ordinance 2025-04 to further amend the Town of Arlington budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. Mrs. Owens.
Yes, sir. This is a first reading. I do need to note that there is a typo. If you were to look at the public safety fire line item, we have already amended their total budget to $5,869,277, and your paper before you says 227, so it's just an error. It's $50 off. That's going to make your total that you need from fund balance also off by $50. This is cleaning up of line items, and it is also asking the board to allow us to purchase an SUV for the planning department, and allowing us to purchase a top dresser for the parks department due to additional revenue that you've had come in. These were both on our capital improvement plan, and we're just asking to move them up this fiscal year. So staff recommends approval.
You've heard the recommendation by Mrs. Owens. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Brooks, second by Mr. Barker. Discussion or questions?
Just for clarification, because there was another item on the agenda. This is not next year's budget, but this is an amendment to this year's budget.
Yeah, amendment to this year's
I know that,
budget.
but I know
Yeah.
that other people might not know that, so.
This is actually, I think, some of the things we discussed at Finance Committee meeting, some of the things that we were cutting out of next year's budget, I think she found a couple that she could move into this year. So trying to just make those adjustments. So any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. All right, so this, next up was item F, and it was first reading of ordinance 2025-05, and it was basically adopting the budget and compensation for this next fiscal year. I think you all were brought aware this morning that there was some information or some confusion or disagreement, I guess you'd say, between the assessor and the comptroller. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Owens and let her kind of explain, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Yes, sir. So we have been on the phone with the comptroller and the assessor all last week, all this morning. Over the weekend, I was working with them and other finance directors as well. This is not isolated to Arlington. This is isolated to Shelby County, mainly because we have our own assessor's office here, and other cities do have state assessors. We've been working all day. There is a disagreement. My recommendation tonight is to pull your budget off of the agenda. I will be happy to answer any questions, but my recommendation would be to pull it off tonight and present it June 2nd with the first reading and June 23rd with the second reading. And that would just give us enough time to make sure that everybody's in agreement and we can present accurate figures to everyone.
So you're saying this would still keep us on the same timeline for June? We would just move the first reading to the beginning of June, second reading, special meeting?
Yeah, your second reading was always going to be on June 23rd, so it's really just moving tonight.
Because we would be adopting the tax rate on the June
Yes.
meeting. So we would have both those items on the June meeting. So again, to kind of echo what Mrs. Owens said, when they told me, I was already on a discussion this morning with the other mayors, and I asked them, and they all expressed the exact same thing is happening. So again, this isn't isolated. It's nothing that staff has done. This is basically a disagreement amongst the way that the comptroller and the assessor's office see it. And so the thought in talking with staff and Mr. Lawson this morning was it's hard to go ahead and approve a budget or throw a number out there, even though we pretty much know what's in this budget. But as the pennies may change, the tax rate may change, to do that and then go ahead and say we're adopting it. Even though we could change it between first and second reading, it just seems kind of like it's a moving target. So that's why we thought it would be best to hold off. Discussion.
Can you give us a little more about like how big is the discrepancy?
Were you talking to the microphone so everybody, I don't know if
I'm sorry,
everybody
can you tell us how big the discrepancy is between what the assessor's saying and what?
It's about a $5 million for personal property difference and about a $6 million for real property. And to be honest with you, that changes your tax rate completely. I mean, it's very drastic, those numbers. So one change in a number changes everything in that workbook. So I can't confidently tell you what your tax rate would drop to today, which is why I'm recommending to pull it.
Can you let us know if which one's higher? Which, is it the assessor that's saying it's higher, or is it the
What we would like to do, with all due respect, is ask you to consider a budget work session. We really need every one of you to hear all of this information at the same time.
Yes.
Where you can give us what your desires, what your wishes, what your expectations are, so that we're not working in a very complicated Excel workbook that has 25 tabs that are all connected. You change one figure, it changes them all. You have to go back and recalculate. You have to double check your formulas. She's still working with the assessor and the comptroller to come to an agreement. But we really need to look at your calendars tomorrow. I'll call each of you tomorrow, Gerald can, and look at your calendars where we get you to come to a budget work session. And especially during reappraisal years, it would be very helpful if the board attended budget committee meetings that or at least, have your own special work session on budgeting, because it helps staff not have to recalculate these things over and over and over and over. I mean, she started at $1.21 and has worked her way backwards, and today she was willing to work all day long to try and work with the comptroller's office and get this fine-tuned. And I was like, no, we're exhausted. She's exhausted. She worked all weekend with a sick child. We really need to seriously take up about 30 minutes to an hour of your time on a budget work session. I mean, we're begging you at this point. So I'll contact you tomorrow and see if we can figure out a day and a time, whether that's during the day, whether that's in the evening, or it's early in the morning. We're at your disposal.
Or even, I mean, it's just, if we can't get everybody here, can we legally do it? If somebody was like, I know Jeff travels sometimes. If it's a day that doesn't, can we do, like, put him on Zoom? You're not voting, so we can put him on a Zoom or something? Okay. That way it gives it a little bit more flexibility.
So that there can be questions back and forth.
Yeah.
We want to make it a work session so that it's open, and to be obviously no public comment period, it is open, but in case there needs to be discussion back and forth, as opposed to us pushing information just to you.
Well, and there's no misunderstanding. We're getting all the information at the same time.
Well, moving forward, we've talked about this, about the finance committee and just even the way we've done it for years. And we have citizens on the board for the transparency and for input, and a work session, anybody's still welcome to come. But I do think moving forward, it may be, especially in this year, like reappraisal years, but maybe us, not even at the first reading. I mean, 'cause this is basically a work session on it at this one. Maybe having a work session before then, and that way we have time between the first and second reading.
I fully support that, but I think I would even go a step further. Like, I think it would be beneficial for the board, before we do budgets, before the first budget committee even meets, that we have a work session where we give our staff direction before they even start. Because by the time you start the committee meetings, they've already had to put a lot of work into it. So to me, it's like, if we're going to, I just think it'd help them to give them direction before they even start the process. Because at the very first budget committee meeting, they've already started the process. I mean,
Well,
they've already
they,
started looking at. And
we've had a
discussions
system.
with their.
Yeah, but they've had discussions with department heads, and we're welcome to go around and talk to department heads. And it's a system that's honestly worked for years. It's just we're looking at not reinventing it, but tweaking it a little bit, just because, I mean, it's worked. I mean, you can, whether everybody always agrees with what the budget ends up. But again, we don't do like a lot of other people too. Reappraisal year, we try to budget for 4 years instead of saying, we're not gonna do anything this year, and then next year start sliding in 5 cents here, 3 cents there. And to that point, there's other things in there that factor into this budget that when we start getting questions, and we'll get into maybe in a work session, things like ambulance service, that it's gone up, you know, a couple $100,000, that adds a few pennies to the tax rate. So this board has never been a fee board, but those are things that if you want to keep the tax rate down, do you do things like that to pull the tax rate down? So, I mean, there's all kinds of discussion and questions that we can have along the way. We try to be as transparent through it, but it's things that as the cost of business is going up, and you look at what, I'm not saying they're right, I mean, because we're in great financial shape, but you look at what all the other municipalities are doing, you really start looking at their tax rate and you looking at their fee structures. We are running as tight as we can, and they have a lot more flexibility, and they're still running tight.
Yeah, and their debt.
I'm not talking all of
I know, but, all right, so you brought up a good point. I actually had this written down because I was going to ask, how do other communities pay for ambulance service?
Some municipalities have their own ambulance services, so the only ones that are in this agreement with us that you just approved tonight is Millington, Lakeland, and Arlington. And we're in agreement with the county because we do not have our own ambulance.
But what I'm saying is, how do the residents pay?
Millington charges a fee, similar to like we have a fee for our solid installation that goes with somebody's bill. They have a separate fee for ambulance. Lakeland has a fire and ambulance fee that pays for it. Now, they don't have that contract with the county, but they have fees for a separate fire fee. I think the ambulance fee is working. I think their ambulance charges is working.
Theirs worked in their fire fee because they don't have a fire, yeah.
And then we are the only
correct?
city in that agreement that is paid for through our general fund.
Millington's is generally, I think it's $13, but theirs is going up substantially, so it's working on that, so it's going up.
So right now, after the increase that's not being proposed, being given to us from Shelby County for the paramedic services, what's the annual number now?
600 and, yeah,
And it went up from what, like?
447. It's a $176,000 increase in 1 year.
And so,
And the only thing that we can do is if you don't want to enter into that agreement is to start our own service, which costs a whole lot more, so.
no, yeah, I'm not going that direction. So I typically am not a fee person because it's like, tell your citizens they have a tax, we're covering. But in fire, I get that because my house is different than his house, you know, and so we pay essentially what it's going to cost us to support fighting a fire at a 2,000 square foot house versus a 5,000 square foot house, since we've used those numbers tonight. And so that's equitable based on what those house sizes are. But an ambulance service is protecting each individual equally. And so 622,000 divided by 4,000 households, because I think that's about how many roofs we have, right? And so, if you say 622,000, how many pennies is that on our penny
To
value?
be clear, we have about 4,600
Okay.
homes. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we were.
Yeah, and so, but out of the
Like 7 or 8 cents.
7 or 8 cents, right? But right now, Mike's paying a higher dollar amount for a paramedic service than someone else is in town that has a house that half the size of his. But it's not about protecting houses, it's about protecting citizens. And so I don't think that, you know, Dwight should pay more than someone else because it's all an equal service. So, I mean, to me, this is the one area that I would say, get rid of the 7 cents on our taxes and do a $18 per household fee on the MLG&W bill to pay for it.
You're just throwing out a number of $18.
Yeah.
You have to calculate it, it's $11.29.
Okay, and so everybody would pay the same amount rather than bigger households, smaller households paying different amounts, and we could remove 7 cents off of the, theoretically, I mean, of.
Maybe
Hypothetically.
Yeah,
I'm
hypothetically,
just
we don't know what
saying,
the number
right,
is, just,
Right.
yeah.
And so, and then, I don't like I said, I don't want fees for our citizens unless there's a good reason for it, but one that has been discussed not for our citizens. We just did a senior citizens non-resident fee to help offset some of that cost that our citizens pay the full amount for, but, you know, it's been talked about a couple of times in passing, but I would say probably 40 to 50% of the kids that participate in athletic sports, recreation sports here is probably non-residents when it's all tallied together. I don't think there's a problem. I don't think there should be a problem with non-citizens helping offset with a field usage fee of 25 or 50 bucks annually to help in the budget scenario for, you know, that would impact Parks and Rec. But that would also reduce, wouldn't be a lot of pennies, but it'd be a penny or two of what we're looking at. And I just think that as people come in, I love having the kids out there playing. That doesn't bother me, but we're asking our citizens to be the ones to do the repairs, the upkeep, the cost of maintaining the fields, which they do a fantastic job of, but I think there ought to be some skin in the game from the non-residents on that as well. And so that's just me trying to finding ways to not lay the entire bill on our citizens, and then also finding ways to remove tax, you know, that.
Well, what you're saying is the tax rate's the most polarizing issue that we face, especially as a board. And again, I'm not going to say names of municipalities, but when I've talked to them, and I look at some of the, you know, they have streetlight fees, they have ambulance fees, they have wheel taxes. Most of them have wheel taxes and stuff. And we've always kind of shot down that theory, but again, a tax is a tax, no matter what you do it. But again, kind of like what you're saying, if there's certain items that are fair tax, it's still, you know, I mean, like, I never really thought about it like that. And you said it, I was just thinking if there was, and I didn't know you were going to talk about that.
I know, that's what I'm saying. When you said that, I was like, hold on.
But no, we're just thinking about it is, what does that cost us, and how does that equate to a penny? And, you know, when we start talking, especially something like this that we're still trying to figure out, where can we, without because we already think we're at a pretty bare bones budget. And we can pull some stuff out, but it's gonna, I'm not gonna say punish our departments, but it's gonna hamstring them from some of the things.
We have to come back to you during the budget year, at the end of the budget year, and request that you spend those things from reserves. Or like Ms. Owens did tonight by amending the budget to allow two things to go ahead and go forward, like she said, off the CIP.
And that's kind of the discussion we had today. I said, do we need to revisit at some point, and of course, do we need to revisit our reserve policy? You know, when we did put that in, I think we were at $8 or $9 million annual budget, 10 million, whatever it was. When does it become unsustainable to try to maintain 100% of that? And does that number need to go back to, and can some of these trucks and stuff like that, instead of being put in the operating budget where it does impact the tax rate, we've kind of started doing that with some capital with the large ones, but do we need to have a smaller, like, utility type capital expenditure to where it eases that tax burden from reserves? Because we don't, you know, we've always been fortunate to where we've budgeted so conservative during the year to where we've been able to not always put money back, but put money back. But what we do with that money, we always have something we could spend it on. And, so those are all discussions we need to have, and I'm not trying to get into all that right now, but I was just saying that's some of today kind of brought a lot of things to light when we were talking about some other things.
And I'm gonna say most of mine are June.
Well,
Okay.
That's the first reading, right?
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
June
Now,
2nd.
if you're talking about a work session, you know, some of us switched our vacations around so we could attend this one here. So after the 15th, I'll be gone till June 1st.
one thing I just want to I'm not going to go into everything I was going to talk about when we were actually going to vote on this, because I really want to have a discussion with the board at the work session, and that's when I want to discuss it. But to piggyback off of what Jeff said, I had a neighbor when I was talking to a neighbor, and he said, "Man, you don't look too good." And I said, "Well, we're looking at a tax increase." And he looked at me straight in the face and said, and unbeknownst to me at the time, I did not know this, and unfortunately I found it out during the conversation, that they were kind of already looking at Hickory With and some of the homes over there, and it really disappointed me. They've been my neighbor for 20 years. And he looked at me and he said, if I move to Hickory With, I'm gonna pay a lot less in taxes, and I can enjoy everything in Arlington. I can enjoy your Kroger, I can enjoy your parks, I can enjoy everything that Arlington offers, except I pay a lot in taxes, or a lot less in taxes. And so, kind of piggybacking off what you said, I think we do have to look at some opportunities to increase fees on people that are using our facilities that aren't contributing to the property tax by not living here. I know we've talked about that before.
And there's a state law too, or something that we can only do on that, so.
We have to raise non-resident fees for library, senior citizen center, for people participating in sports. We don't allow reservations of events at town facilities if you're a non-resident. So we have started doing some of that, but it's not enough to put a penny value to it, in my estimation. We'll have to run some numbers on that, but over the years, we've been proactive in making sure that non-resident fees are double what residents pay, and that money doesn't just stay with the sports program, it actually comes back to the town. So Mr. Upchurch and his staff are verifying all that every time there's a season, per season, for first sport, those fees are making their way back to Arlington. But I mean, to piggyback on what you're saying, we don't charge enough in fees to run the library, general fund runs the library. We don't charge enough in fees to run the senior citizen center, general fund runs the senior citizen center. We don't charge enough in fees for your fees to pay for running your parks. All those are general fund services. Special events, we don't charge fees for special events, those are free. And to piggyback on what you're saying, it's not just Arlington residents that are attending those special events, but you're not charging a fee for people to get into your special events. You're not trying to recoup a cost. You're trying to build a quality of life in Arlington, a image of your town. So there are a lot of things that could be done, or it really depends on the board's vision of what you want moving forward, which is beneficial for us to have these conversations early and often to Mr. Biggs' point.
I wasn't gonna touch on this, but since you brought that up, you know, people move to Arlington for, four major things. One of them, yes, is the school system. That's why I said the school board is more important than we are, okay? The second is, it's a safe place with good infrastructure. The other is a small town feel. And the third is, it's safe here and we have a lot of community events. Number one, we cannot control, but number 2, 3, and 4, we can. If something happened in the school system, we got to be sure that we still are attractive to people to move here. Not just ones with kids, but my age too. So we need to be looking at 2, 3, and 4 at all time to make sure that we do attract people here. That's why I think community events, the family-type community events are very important. I believe that. A few years ago, I'd said no, but I think it is, because we cannot control the schools. If something happened to the schools, are people going to move here?
I've seen a different side of you. I mean, honestly, some of your thoughts have changed over the last few years.
They have.
So back to, so we don't keep going on and on about item F. Work session, Harry's going to be.
15th, I leave.
Could you Zoom if it doesn't work out for anybody else? We may be able to get one in between. I mean, we say 30 minutes to an hour, but we just an hour. I mean.
I could accept on the 15th when I'm traveling.
But at least we don't have to start from scratch on but we just, I mean, because.
I made a note, and we'll touch base with all of you.
Okay, so we'll work on getting that scheduled as soon as possible. I know I mean, that's where the next discussion will be, unless there's anything else anybody wants to add tonight.
One question I do have, is, are you all comfortable with us calculating an ambulance fee? Because we will need to
It
do.
wouldn't hurt to have it at
To do that for the
Say
work
that
session.
again?
to calculate an ambulance fee, what it would do versus the tax rate at the work session.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
At least just have that option. Here it is with the ambulance cutout and the fee, and here's what it is.
And then one more question I have was, at the finance meeting last Monday, Mr. Harry had proposed to go ahead and pave Milton Wilson from Forest down to Chester.
I was gonna make that.
And in your current budget numbers that we have been working on for the last 6 months, we've only got it going to Hazel Ridge. So I would just need to know if that's the board's wishes, because I will need to make those changes in the budget.
From Forest Street to where?
Right now, it's Forest Street to Hazel Ridge, which gets you to White Oak. And then Mr. Harry had recommended going from Forest all the way to Chester.
But I guess the question is, so would that be the budgetary item, or would that be coming out of the street aid reserves?
I would budget it to come out of your reserves.
Street
I
aid
just need to know
reserve.
if you want your budget basically to present that number.
Where that came up from, if you can give me a minute to explain it, is because I got with Kathy, and if you look at Milton Wilson, it's just completely pitiful. It cannot wait that other section for a year and a half more, because I talked with Terry, he's spending $200,000 or $300,000 just repairing it. If you wait another year and a half to do the rest of that, then the cost of asphalt is going up so fast. We're just throwing the money out the door by not going on doing it. And Kathy said that we had some extra money, since we're not gonna have to pay every bit of the money on the bridge that we have put back, that we could use for that. We figured it'd be about 900,000 to $1 million, and to go on and do it all, and we'd probably get a better rate then, and it would not be coming out of the budget.
And
$7 million in street aid reserves. There's $19 million currently budgeted by the state to widen the I-40 bridge. They haven't put it out for bids, so it could come back higher than the $19 million, and we'll have to have a different conversation, but the only thing right now that's slated for you to have to pay for are any amenities that you add to the design of that bridge, so lighting,
you and Jeff.
landscaping, signage, textured surface to
Special
the
texture.
bridge. Yes, sir, those kinds of things. So what we discussed was it would be appropriate to spend that from reserves.
And I want to ask Terry on that. He said something to me about it. How much time are you spending on Milton Wilson patching,
it's nonstop.
Oh, yeah, we've gone out and patched failures only to have it start failing past those.
Well, they were last week, patching.
and the work that you would be doing on Milton Wilson would be not just re-asphalting, but it would be going to the base and fixing some of the problems.
Yeah, we always do patch, mill, and pave, go in, find the failures, dig those out, patch them, mill where we need to mill,
And
We're gonna do some core sampling, down the road to see if there are any areas that need full depth reclamation. So,
Okay.
get a geotechnical crew out there and they take core samples and you get a better idea of the compaction and, everything that's under the road. There are areas of that road that are built on 15, 20 feet of fill.
I think again, it's a smart move. That's probably our number one complaint about road. And,
Of course, they're gonna want speed bumps after we get through, because we already got built-in speed bumps.
Yeah, as Airline Road is, but it has been, but that's because we got more construction and more cuts coming. So.
Mike, I did go ahead and ask the developer how many, because we always said we weren't trying to wait till we get through building homes, but he's got 6 more years of building in White Oak. So you can't wait.
That's a yes to the Milton Wilson and a yes to
Calculating
the,
ambulance.
ambulance service, correct?
To
Yes,
calculate it for the work
are you
session.
you're gonna break it down both ways? Yeah,
For the
okay.
work session, yes, sir.
And I just want to clarify on the Milton Wilson, that would come from the street and road reserves, not the
Yes.
general fund reserves.
Correct,
right?
yes, sir.
Street aid. Which we're moving money over from the general fund to street aid, so it's just basically, it's kind of. Any other, before we get,
If we do a separate ambulance fee, that will be charged through like gas and water?
Yes, sir.
will we still have control of how much?
Yes, sir.
We
set-
do
you would-
versus the
The
county?
board would set the fee based by resolution.
Yeah.
And you could amend it anytime you needed to.
County doesn't care.
Yes.
We would just be using that money to pay the county.
Yeah, the agreement would be with us, but the money would just be coming in from a different source of revenue.
Seems like an extra step that's not needed.
The only thing I,
Don't get that.
It would just offset your tax rate is what they were proposing. If you had an
Well,
ambulance
it
fee.
becomes a shell game. Well, hey, look, you're not paying this over here now, but you got this over here. That's,
Well,
I don't-
she's going to present it both ways. We can talk about this at the work session and see what it looks like, and then get guidance from there before the first reading in June.
I talk to people who live in some other cities, oh, yeah, our tax rate's this. And I go, what about this what about this fee you pay? What about that fee you pay? And, oh, okay.
I agree with you.
I don't want to get into that, is what I'm getting
About
at.
too is, this is one scenario that differs in your family, and whatever. Be careful, let's look at it real carefully. Is there some others that means the same thing? It could be, not just the ambulance fee or not anything like that. It could be other things too, that I don't have a family, but somebody else does have a family.
Another way to look at it is, you have rental homes in Arlington. So those homes are owned by a property management company or an individual who are renting those homes. If you're charging it through the utility bill, the renter is getting that fee. So it's a way of capitalizing on that transient person who maybe doesn't intend to live in Arlington forever. Which is what the bill tax would help you do, but I understand that that's a subject for.
Isn't there something we could do for those rental properties or even the apartments?
Pardon?
Isn't there something that we can collect on that?
Oh, yes,
For-
per unit. At the apartments, it would be. per
Okay,
unit.
so we're still going to be able to get
Yes,
our money.
sir. Yes, sir.
Right now, with it just being under your property tax, the owner of the apartments would be paying that bill. And if you were to do it as an ambulance fee, it would spread it between all of those residents of the apartments and not necessarily the property owner
Who are actually using the ambulance service.
would be paying for it.
Well, we've never talked about, this would be something at the work session to talk about, so, I mean, it's one of those things we gotta at least explore, and then, because again, the most volatile thing that we do as a board is the tax rate, so.
I'm just trying to come up with ideas to try to reduce as much of a
Well,
potential tax increase.
I'll add one comment on that, is that one thing that I don't really like fees, but I get it in this situation because it's a fee we have no control over, right? I mean, we don't get to negotiate this fee.
That's right.
We can't come in here and when we set our property tax rate and say, well, this is an area we can cut. It is what it is.
Yep.
And
like
it's not
solid
set by us,
Well,
it's
and
set
it's
by
also
some.
one that they don't have to wait 4 years to say, hey, it's going up again,
Exactly.
That's
and-
right, they revise it every year.
Yeah.
Somewhat on our behalf, but you don't have a vote on it.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so, no vote. We're going for a work session. Staff will send out something as early as tomorrow, and we'll try to get that moving, because we're already on the 5th, and Harry's gone in 10 days on his worldwide tour. He's the busiest retired man I've ever met in my life. So, if no other comments on that, do I have a motion to approve the bills for payment? Motion by Mr. McKee. Second by Mr. Barker. Any objection? Seeing none, that item passes. And do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. McKee, second by Mr. Brook, unanimously by everybody. No objection. This meeting is adjourned.
Tired sitting in the chair.
No.
Well, it's just a hidden way to